You think you're making conscious decisions, choosing careers, relationships, beliefs, paths, freely. But Carl Jung would gently and powerfully disagree. Beneath every action you take, every gut feeling or compulsive habit, there are ancient forces at work, invisible patterns, archetypal energies. They do not ask your permission, they influence you from within. These archetypes are not mere symbols in mythology, they live inside you. They are psychological blueprints, universal and timeless, shaping how you perceive yourself, others, and the world. The hero, the caregiver, the rebel, the orphan. They pull you toward certain behaviors. They whisper in your decisions, and if left unconscious, they can lead you in circles, wondering why you keep reliving the same story. But when you recognize the archetype that's active within you, something changes. You step out of reactivity and into awareness. You stop being a character in a play you didn't write and start becoming the author of your life. In this exploration, we'll meet 4 of Jung's most powerful archetypes that may be silently shaping your choices, and learn how to bring them into the light, because only when you see the pattern can you change the path. The hero, when strength becomes exhaustion. The hero archetype is one of our culture's most celebrated roles. It's the achiever, the fighter, the one who keeps going no matter what. In myth, the hero slays the dragon and returns victorious. In life, you become the one who always shows up, always pushes through, always saves the day. But Jung warns us, when left unconscious, the hero doesn't empower you, it exhausts you. The hero archetype is rooted in survival. It rises when you feel you must prove your worth through action. It tells you rest is weakness, that if you're not winning, that your value is measured by what you do, not who you are. And so you run toward success, away from failure, until the very strength that carried you begins to burn you out. You can't slow down, because slowing down feels like death. But it's not death. It's the doorway to something deeper, the self beyond the script. To reclaim your energy, you must confront the story that says you're only lovable when you're strong. Ask, who am I when I'm not striving? What part of me have I left behind in the chase? The true hero's journey isn't about conquering the world. It's about returning home, to yourself. The caregiver, when helping becomes self-abandonment, the caregiver archetype is revered. The nurturer, the empath, the healer. You're the one who listens, supports, gives endlessly. You pride yourself on being dependable, loving, always there. But Jung teaches that even light can cast a long shadow. When unconscious, the caregiver becomes a martyr, and the cost is yourself. This archetype forms early, often in those who were praised for being good and punished for having needs. Love became conditional, something you earned by caretaking. So you learn to disappear, to feel others more than yourself, to fix rather than feel. Over time, helping becomes habit. You say yes when you mean no, you give when you're empty, and you call it love. But beneath that service is a quiet ache, the fear that if you stop giving, you'll stop being loved. This is not true love, it's self-erasure, and it is not sustainable. To break free, you must turn your care inward. Ask, where have I abandoned myself in the name of support? What do I need to feel nourished? The mature caregiver doesn't disappear. They serve from fullness, not depletion, from choice, not compulsion. Because true compassion includes you too. The rebel. When defiance masks inner wounds, the rebel archetype carries fire. It breaks rules, shatters norms, questions everything. It is bold, electric, unafraid. But Jung knew that rebellion, when unconscious, can become reactive, a mask worn not from freedom, but from pain. Many rebels were once silenced, controlled, shamed for being too much, too different, too alive. Rebellion was born not as expression, but as defense. You learned to protect yourself by opposing everything, to push away before you could be pushed, to destroy before you could be denied. But over time, this defiance can become a prison. You begin to rebel against things that don't need to be fought. You sabotage opportunities. You confuse freedom with isolation. And all the while, the wound remains untouched. the wound of not being seen. Jung would invite you to ask, what am I really fighting? Is this act of defiance a step toward my truth or a shield from my pain? The rebel archetype becomes powerful when it softens, when rebellion shifts from reaction to creation, when you no longer need to push away the world to find your place in it. Because real freedom isn't about burning everything down, it's about building something that finally reflects you. The orphan, when fear of rejection drives every choice. The orphan archetype is the part of you that remembers loss, of trust, of safety, of connection. It's born the moment you felt alone in a room full of people, the first time you realized love could vanish without warning. It is not weakness, it is a survival response, and when it goes unconscious, it starts to steer your life from behind the scenes. The orphan doesn't just fear abandonment, it expects it. It walks into every relationship braced for loss. It tries to be likable, agreeable, invisible, anything to avoid being left again. It overgives, overexplains, overapologizes, not out of love, but out of fear. If they really knew me, they'd walk away. Jung believed this archetype holds deep wisdom, but also deep distortion. When left in the dark, the orphan sabotages joy before joy can disappear. It clings to people who are already walking away. It chooses rejection before it can be chosen. To begin healing, you must offer the orphan what it never received. Safety from within. You must stop outsourcing your worth. Stop chasing people who echo your abandonment, and begin to say, even if you leave, I will not leave myself. Because the orphan isn't broken. It's just longing to come home. And you are that home. Awareness is power. How to recognize the archetype at work. You cannot change what you do not see. Archetypes are powerful not because they are evil, but because they are invisible. They operate like unconscious programs, shaping how you feel, what you fear, and why you choose what you choose. Jung's gift was in giving these invisible forces names so that they could be seen, understood, and ultimately integrated. Each archetype has a tone, a story, a posture. The hero rushes toward the goal. The caregiver puts others first. The rebel pushes everything away. The orphan waits for rejection. These patterns are not wrong. They are simply outdated strategies. Once they served you, now they may be costing you. Start to notice the moments when you feel most reactive, most drained, most stuck. Ask, what story am I living right now? Whose voice is this? What archetype might be shaping this reaction? Recognition breaks the spell. It doesn't fix everything, but it creates space. Space to choose differently, space to feel without performing, space to respond instead of repeat. Awareness isn't about shame, it's about liberation. Because the moment you recognize the archetype, it stops driving, and you start becoming something greater than the pattern. You begin to become yourself. Integration over elimination. You don't kill the archetype, you befriend it. We often approach inner work with the same mindset we bring to external problems. If something hurts, eliminate it. If it causes chaos, silence it. But Carl Jung offers a more profound path. Integration. Archetypes aren't enemies to be defeated. They are energies to be understood, respected, and reintegrated into the self. The hero isn't wrong for wanting to conquer. The caregiver isn't wrong for wanting to give. The rebel isn't wrong for challenging the system. And the orphan isn't wrong for seeking safety. The problem isn't that these forces exist. The problem is when they exist unconsciously, when they act through us rather than with us. Integration means making the archetype conscious. It means seeing when the hero is pushing you to burnout and learning to choose rest instead. It means noticing when the caregiver is abandoning herself and choosing to give from fullness, not fear. It means realizing you don't need to kill these parts of you, you need to lead them. Befriending an archetype is like sitting down with an old protector. You thank it for its service. You see how it kept you safe, and then you gently reclaim the steering wheel. Because true inner freedom doesn't come from silencing parts of yourself. It comes from letting all of you have a voice and letting yourself decide which one to follow. creating conscious choice, living from the self, not the script. Most people don't live lives, they live scripts. Stories written by culture, trauma, family, and fear. Stories that say, be the strong one, the quiet one, the good one, the helpful one. These scripts are safe, familiar, and deeply limiting. Jung believed that the only path to real freedom is to live from the self, not the persona, not the archetype, not the mask. But what is the self? It is the deep center within you that holds all your opposites. The one who can be strong and soft, bold and uncertain. It's not an identity, it's a presence. And when you live from that presence, your choices begin to shift. You no longer act from habit. You respond from truth. The journey is not about perfection. It's about participation. Waking up in the moment and asking, is this choice coming from my conditioning or my clarity, from fear or from freedom? Conscious choice begins when you realize you have one, when you stop letting the archetype run the show and start living as the director. The self doesn't reject the story, it rewrites it. And when you begin to live from there, every decision becomes sacred because it's no longer automatic, it's yours.